The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
We're coming right out of the box. We have, I say, this radio show myself, people that have been on the job with me. The quest for who is Barack Obama continues. Jim Emery is going to be on a radio show this morning from Ferguson. S.C. Sherman, as we talked about on Friday, Fake-A-Hannes came to town, Elizabeth Warren, and we did a couple of days on this about this woman is a con. And as you know, she's the senator from Boston, and we have talked about her at great length. She claims to have been a Native American, much like our very own Ward Churchill. And she came to town to get out there and campaign for Mark Udall. We made a big stink about it, and a lot of people called a lot of the media outlets. You remember in Bambi, remember what Thumper the Rabbit said? If you can't say something nice about, maybe you could find that, Casey. It's one of the great lines from the motion picture Bambi, Walt Disney's classic, where Thumper the Rabbit says, if you can't say anything nice about someone, don't say anything at all. Well, again, a tree that falls in the forest, if no one is there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. Elizabeth Warren came to town and left town, and you know what? She did not leave a footprint. The Denver Front Range media took the Thumper the Rabbit approach and said, if you can't say something nice, like the truth, don't say anything. So S.C. Sherman comes back on. Also, we're going to help some folks out on a fundraiser, and Lieutenant Colonel Alan West will be with us. You did find it?
If you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all.
There you are, and that's what happened with Elizabeth Warren. Ladies and gentlemen, please say good morning and welcome back to 710 KNUS. I love this guy. I love his work. Randy Foreman on, of course,
Good morning, Peter.
Hey, who is Barack Obama? Hey, Randy, good morning.
Good morning to you, Peter. How are you doing
You
today?
know, and I'm good, bro. It's interesting. We did 2 straight days of lampooning, if you would, Mark Udall, and by the way, he is in the lead over Cory Gardner.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, he brought, first of all, the president came to town. I don't know if you remember all of this, and the Udall people they'd never showed up.
They didn't even want to show up.
Yeah,
That's right.
They took the money.
They took the money.
Yeah, they took the money, but they would not want the photographs of Udall and the president together. You know, that Hickenlooper ads running. Long story short, so these guys thought they were hotsy-totsy, and they were going to run in Elizabeth Warren, also known as her Indian name Sakashia, or shops at Whole Foods.
Or Focus-Hannes. Or what was it?
Fake-A-Hannes.
Yeah.
Fake-A-Hannes, or she who shops at Whole Foods. But what's ending, she's a fake Indian, and she's a real plagiarist. But so they brought her in, and I probably let the cat out of the bag. We did a couple of mornings on it, and I said, let's watch Channel 9, let's watch the Denver Post, let's watch the Acclaim. Well, to my chagrin, I can't find one story that she was here, and so but she was here, but I can't find any stories where she and Udall appear together, and I thought to myself, gee, is this Thumper the Rabbit? Remember Thumper the Rabbit? Thumper the Rabbit said, if you can't say anything nice about somebody, don't say anything at all. And so I think that's the position the Front Range press took. They're not saying it, so not saying anything about anybody. So it is though, she came to town, she did what she did, and then she left. And they had lionized her. I mean, I kept all the things that were written and said in advance, including Eli Stokos on Fox News. I don't want to start that again this morning. Oh, Eli. But Lynn Bartles in the Post and all these other people. Oh, wow, wonderful. Oh, this wonderful woman. She's hopscotching Hillary Clinton. She is the front-running woman in the Democratic Party. Well, I guess these people must think that, well, I know what they think. They think that a bunch of stooges that think like them are sitting behind microphones and typewriters, and in fact, I think they're right. But Fake-A-Hannes came to town, and nobody said anything.
No one said anything. Right.
You're not shocked. You're not shocked.
No, not shocked. Not shocked. It's the press.
Yeah.
It's the press. That's the way they are, and it's, I've met sorts of people like that here in Washington, and that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me. I think the big problem is that people, I think people think that, well, are they ever going to change? No, they're not. The only way that they change is that conservatives and libertarians, we get our own alternative media.
Or just people that are fed up. And I don't care. Maybe, I hope there's such a thing as a fed up Democrat. I don't know.
There's a growing percentage of those sorts of people here in this country anymore, as you may know. But that's like I said, that is happening.
Sure.
And people, as you referenced the Ferguson case that you're going to be doing later. That particular show, that particular episode. There's all sorts. If I read WorldNet Daily afterwards, they said that there were all sorts of spontaneous rallies that arose in support of the officer.
Sure.
Are any of those covered?
No.
But they are covered on your show, which is the number one rated talk show in Denver.
I wish. We do well. But what's interesting to me is the Ferguson case is a classic where Eric Holder comes to town and goes and sees the family of the gentle giant, does not go to see the cop. That's not a story. The people who armed themselves and defended their businesses, they're not a story. There's a beating that took place this weekend where these black guys attacked this white couple. That's not a story. We go on and on and on and on, but principally, I guess now that what does Limbaugh call him? F. Chuck Todd has Meet the Depressed. They're going to do the segment things that the people don't talk about in Washington, and so I'm thinking, well, how about the birth certificate? How about that scandal? You know, and I know, and I love you for your work, Randy. They ain't going to do that, are they?
They're not going to talk about it. But you know what's amazing is how the story continually comes up, out of the middle of nowhere. Sometimes you could be, I could be with someone and, all of a sudden this comes up. It has an element. How do I say it? It has an element. There's God. It's kind of like you got to put an element of God into it. But God, it just kind of keeps coming up.
Yeah.
It's
so here
amazing.
we go. I understand. But first of all, I should have done this, and I apologize. Do a quick a bio, Randy, of yourself, if you would.
Sure.
Yeah.
I write for a website called newsblaze.com. I'm based here in Washington, D.C. Basically I'm trying to get this website going and everything else, and nonetheless, I've decided if I wanted to go to political events here in town, I better write about them. So This is what I've done is I've started writing for a website called Newsblaze, and one of the passions that I have is this story about where's Barack Obama's birth certificate. I've had that all since this has come up. And no one has ever answered the question sufficiently to me. To you either.
No.
And we've never gotten an answer.
No.
We've never gotten an answer. And so I've done some work here and there. I've various different ways I've tried doing stuff on this story. And it's astonishing to me just how people will tolerate this kind of fraud. It's just, there are people in Washington who will talk about fuzzy wuzzies at a briefing, but they can't talk about this.
Oh, the whole thing going back to when it all begins. When it all begins. Now I guess 7 years ago, when people started to whisper in my ear, "Hey Pete, this guy doesn't have any bona fides. He doesn't have any credentials." And at first blush, being honest, I thought, oh, nonsense. I just thought, oh, crazy. And then I took a couple of afternoons and I started to read, and I went, oh my God, there's not one document that is in the sunlight, or as the man said that he was going to be the most transparent administration in history. There's nothing. In other words, we go down a list of things, and if they do exist, they have been suppressed.
And this story, the thing is, Peter, this story answers everything that is wrong in Washington.
I agree.
Everything.
I agree.
Everything that's wrong. You can answer Benghazi with this story. You can answer Fast and Furious with this story. You can answer the IRS story. All of those stories can be answered with this birth certificate. It's strange how it comes down to just this document.
And I always take that line from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid when they keep saying, "Who are those guys?" And we don't know. I swear. I mean, and now more and more people. The other morning, we had Pat Buchanan on the radio show, and Buchanan said, "Yeah, we don't know." And you get on a list of people. I mean, we every once in a while get some, they say black print name, some bold print name that wanders in here. And I always bring it up. And you know what? To the person, they go, "Yeah, we don't know." And the other morning, Friday, then I'll shut up. William Fortune, who, and he said in a private conversation, his writing partner is Newt Gingrich. He said, "I just can't get Newt to bite on it." And but he said on the air, he said whether he's talking about 1 second after in his new book that's coming, and said, that's right. No one knows who this guy is, and he's a pretty predominant historian, and he knows that nobody knows who this guy is. And I had a congressperson tell me, "Yeah, everybody in Washington knows that the story's not straight."
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, it's a strange. I mean, I talked with the congressional staffer the other day and said, "Well, why won't you guys do something about it?" "Well, you look foolish doing it." Well,
no, you don't.
What kind of? But the real problem is, what kind of catastrophe is going to have to happen before all of a sudden people say, we got to do something about this?
Well,
and that's
Hitchcock. I always use this term. I read this biography of Alfred Hitchcock, who was, as brilliant as he was twisted as he was brilliant. But he had this thing that he called the MacGuffin. And he would, every one of his films, he had a MacGuffin in it. And the best example of a MacGuffin was the lovebirds in the movie The Birds. And they were just there. Remember, she brings them in her Aston Martin up to see, what was his name, Robert Taylor, but I think it was Robert Taylor, but I forget the actor, it doesn't matter. But he was up, she takes the birds to his little sister. Well, the birds are those two little birds are in all the interior shots, and in the end, when the family sneaks out, she brings the little birds with her. Those little birds are called the MacGuffin, and it's the focus point that nobody sees, but it's a focus point. So, I think, and it's not just a birth certificate, is it, Randy?
No, it's not just the birth certificate. I mean, it explains everything in this town. Explains everything that's going wrong. It's bizarre. It's bizarre, and that's why I've wanted to go after this. If no other media is doing it, to me, this is a growth area.
Yeah, nobody in Denver.
People want to hear, I would say beyond Washington want to know about this.
I agree.
I'm sure that's why you've had me on several times.
Many times. I have a list of we have a list of people. Joel Gilbert has become a good friend, and you get a moment to see that film Road to Utopia. It's very good. He did the original, Dreams from My Real Father, and somebody put we get all this. How do I say this? I'm sort of in the epicenter of the people like yourself, who I have so much respect for, your total lack of fear and your straight ahead views of the world. But have you seen this thing that's floating around called coincidences? Have you seen this?
I haven't seen that. That I haven't seen.
All right, so I carry files and folders and stuff around of Obama, but this guy, this is an interesting. Any one of these coincidences, when taken in a singular fashion, appear not to mean much. I can't talk this morning, but when taken as a whole, a computer would blow a main circuit if you ask it to calculate the odds that have occurred by chance alone. Sit back, get a favorite beverage, and then read and ponder the Obama coincidences. And it is, and again, I'll just read you the first paragraph. Barack Obama just happened to know 60s far-left radical revolutionary William Ayers, whose father just happened to be Thomas Ayers, who just happened to be a close friend of Obama's communist mentor, Frank Marshall Davis, who just happened to later have the father-in-law of an Iranian-born leftist, Valerie Jarrett, who Obama just happened to choose as his closest White House advisor, who just happened to have been the CEO of Habitat Company, which just happened to manage the public housing in Chicago, which just happened to get millions of dollars from Illinois state legislators, which just happened not to properly maintain the housing, which eventually was going to acquire demolition. I mean, that's just one And a Valerie Jarrett just happened to work for the city of Chicago, just happened to hire Michelle LaVaughn Robinson, later Mrs. Barack Obama, who just happened to be working in the Sidney Austin law firm, whose former fugitive from the FBI, Bernadette Doran, just happened to work, and where Barack Obama just happened to get a summer job. I love this stuff.
Yeah, I'd say, and I would add to that, Obama just happened to come from a state where the birth statute said you could provide unsworn testimony for an unattended birth.
Let me read you one more, and then the guy who makes this whole radio show, it's his work. He's going to put this up. Bernadette Doran, they just do this in jobs, who just happened to be married to William Ayers, whom she just happened to have hidden from the FBI in San Francisco Marina, along with Donald Warden, who just happened to change his name to Khalid al-Mansour, and al-Mansour just happened to be the mentor of Black Party founder Huey Newton, a close associate of Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan, and al-Mansour just happened to be a financial advisor to a Saudi prince who just happened to donate cash for which Obama just happened to get a critical letter of recommendation from Percy Sutton, who just happened to have been the attorney for Malcolm X, who just happened to know Kenyan politician Thomas Mboya, who just happened to be a close friend of Barack Obama Sr., who just happened, it just goes like boom, boom, boom. Yeah. We should put, Mr. C is going to put that up for folks this morning. And I always call them coinkadinks.
Yeah. And they just keep going. They just keep going.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's it's interesting. I mean, interesting. When I went to church on Easter Sunday, the pastor referenced this thing called Bayes' theorem about Christ. You're talking about the odds. You know, if you look at the odds that what it takes for a person for someone to meet all of the different or all of the witnesses after when Christ was crucified, or whatever, and how all of that proves, that just isn't just a coincidence.
Oh, they're not.
And this is even more tighter than, I wouldn't say more tighter, but I would just say, it's like it's something like Bayes' theorem, basically.
Yeah, I'm going to put this up. It's a series of paragraphs, about 15 of them. Barack Obama joined the Trinity United Church of Christ, whose pastor just happened to be Reverend Jeremiah Wright, who just happened to preach Marxism and black liberation, who just happened to deliver anti-white, anti-Jewish, anti-American sermons, which Obama just happened to never to hear because he just happened to miss church only on the days where Wright was his most enthusiastic. And Obama just happened never to notice that Oprah Winfrey left the church because it was too radical, and just happened never to notice that the church gave the vile anti-Semitic leader of the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan, a Lifetime Achievement Award. It's just great.
And
it's just great.
It just keeps going, doesn't it, Peter?
Yeah, hang on. Hang on. Let me get us back on track. I know that you just met with Zulo. I'm going to put you on hold. We'll bring you back. All right, hang on, sir. I love this guy. And it's time we go and pull that scab back again. Randy Foreman, back to just the best guest. If you're just joining us, Randy Foreman, and we're gonna have up that coincidence thing here in just a minute. This was given to me by another investigator in the series of events in the Obama life, and it brings up, of course, the president, Valerie Jarrett, Bernadette Doran, Obama Sr., Reverend Wright, everybody who shows up in this guy's life, and how they really are. I mean, not even 2 or 3 degrees of separation. They're just linked up, and you see this guy, and you broke away by saying, sort of the Hitchcock's MacGuffin. If you were to understand one thing, Randy, of this guy's life, one truth, what would you want it to be?
Well, what would it want to be? Who the heck is he? I mean, we don't know. I mean, we don't know. I mean, that's the most critical question. I mean, it's beyond bizarre. People don't want to deal with it, and that's and somehow this story's going to come out. It's going to come out. Yeah.
Do you think? I mean, I'm sort of Shakespearean, Old Testament, Greek theater. The truth will out. But now, into his second term, he's got 2 years left. And I had some hope when his numbers of approval rating started to fall, and he's sort of in Richard Nixon land now. And I thought somebody would step up. But then you think of people like Chuck Todd, yeah, Brian Williams, any of these people. I don't expect them to do it. Do you?
I don't know. I don't expect any of these people to do it. But I think the longer these people keep silent on this, the harder it's going to be when this thing does break. It's going to be, I feel like it's going to be harder on these people. And I think the worst possible thing that these people are doing right now is keeping quiet about this. Yeah. I think this is only aiding what Mike Zullo's doing, I think. Is how
I read your piece. You spent 4 hours with Zullo. First, tell the folks about who he is. That's important.
Sure. He's the head of the unit in the Maricopa County, Arizona, Phoenix Sheriff's Office, which is the biggest sheriff's office apparently in the United States. That he is the head of the cold case, what's called the cold case posse. He's a New Jersey detective. He worked in law enforcement jobs in New Jersey. And this is a guy. When I got to talk with him and everything else, this is a guy who's he's really went after some really tough people in his day. And this is. I mean, Joe Arpaio could not have picked a better person to do this job than Mike Zullo. And I mean, he's absolutely. And I don't think Washington intimidates him at all at this point. I think he knows what he's doing. This investigation is, I caught up with him about, let's say, maybe 2 years ago, 1 to 2 years ago at CPAC, and he was saying, well, gee, if we could get in front of Congress, that was not at all the attitude that I got from him when I met with him out here. And he basically we did some research on Newsblaze did some research on this topic, and we actively cooperated with Mike Zullo on this. And we can't say what we did, but we can tell you basically that, I mean, he came out here. He was very, very professional in what he did. Very professional, and I can tell you that this. I can tell you some of his interactions with people in this investigation. It's a complete culture shock to the city. They're not ready to handle this. They don't know. Yeah. This is just the thing is, Peter. You talked about in your opening. You talked about how when Elizabeth Warren came to Denver. And you said no one covered, or was it you were saying?
They gave her. Here's what happened, and we got SC coming up this morning. This fellow SC Sherman, he is like Elizabeth Warren's stalker. This he's clever, he's funny, but I kept all the media reports prior. In other words, lay downs from this character Eli Did he say Eli?
I don't know.
We always do this. We trigger this. That's on me. That's not on Casey. But we kept all the pieces that were written in the Denver Post. We kept all the pieces written by Fox News, lionizing, if you would, the arrival of Elizabeth Warren to fundraise for Mark Udall. And
well, yeah.
And I went, are you kidding me? No one in this Front Range knows that she is as phony as, and she's a plagiarist, and she's, you know what? So we did 2 days on it, made fun of it, had lots of people on. You know what? She came and left without any attention.
Well, that's my point is think about this. Here's an investigation from one law enforcement agency out here in this country. If this is everyone keeps using the phrase, if this was a Democrat, you would have satellite trucks. I wouldn't even be able to get anywhere near this person. This is, to me, this is huge news that he was here in Washington last week. It was huge, and he called, basically it was from research that we had done, and I spent the better part of August working on, and they wanted to see it. We said, okay, sure, and we did. I've worked with the posse in this, and he came here, and it's amazing just how much of a culture shock this investigation is to the city. He was here, And I have to tell you, he's a very professional guy. He's moving this forward. I can tell you that he told me while he was out here. I mean, this man has quit his job to do this.
I know.
Do what he's doing.
As I say, they said that on, and the Blues Brothers were on a mission from God, but Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio has this top deputy. His name is Mike Zillow, and I've talked to him numbers of times, and he came to D.C. and the same thing, by the way, has happened to Joel Gilbert. Joel Gilbert spoke in the press club in Washington D.C. and he said there is, and I think I'm paraphrasing him, but he said there's a Pulitzer for anybody in this room that wants it. All they have to do is convince a mainstream outlet that they're going to pursue who is Barack Obama. And you know what?
I don't think I'll get a Pulitzer, but at least maybe the Bradley Prize might be enough.
But I mean, what is? Again, I have boxes now of stories, phony documents, on just an amazing assortment of questions about Barack Obama, unanswered questions of Barack Obama's life. And, and I am by no stretch of the imagination a George Bush fan. But I guarantee you that if this was Bush, these guys would be on this with both feet.
I feel the same way. I'm not really a fan of the Republican establishment
Not at
anymore.
All. Not at all.
But but that's exactly, and it's just weird. But I think, like I said, you read it. There's a tweet that was sent out by one of the principal mouthpieces of this investigation, Mark Gallar.
Sure.
He said, Mark Gallar at Tea Party Power Hour, he said basically what Arpaio is going to do, it will change will reorder, I can't remember the exact words, it'll reorder America's political establishment or whatever. And I retweeted it. That's what's going on. That's what this investigation will do.
Do you believe?
There are a lot.
Go ahead. Here's a question for you. And we're Monday morning, September the 8th. Thursday is 9/11. We're going to talk to people in open lines about their fears. Jim Emery's coming up. S.C. Sherman on Elizabeth Warren coming to town and leaving, and no one talks about it. Some folks who are cruising for the cause, and it's a motorcycle ride, and then Lieutenant Colonel Alan West on the silence of the GOP. Also going to talk about the Middle East. But you watch this, and there's a Canadian television outlet called Vision TV.
I did. I saw that. Yeah.
Now let's you and I talk about that, because it's Canada's only English language cable satellite television provider, and it broadcast about 100 million homes. And they did a thing, and we're going to follow up on this, Canada's Vision TV, and they say Barack Obama forged his birth certificate. This guy's on the radio show on Wednesday, and how he shames America's media. And honest to God, this is real, you guys. This is tomorrow's our Level Zero Heroes. And then Wednesday, the conspiracy show, the website plugs, is called Episode 4, The Birthers, Barack Obama's Birth Certificate. Have you seen this?
I saw it. In fact, I talked to Mike Zullo about that show. And Zullo remarked to me, he said, why didn't they call me?
That's a good enough criticism, but but
it was pretty good. I would say. It's what he's saying. Why didn't they call it? It is, but nonetheless, the show was pretty good, except for one. There was one thing that they said in that show that I thought was when Surratt said that it was inconclusive. He said that the natural-born citizenship issue was he said that the natural was more definitive as a or whatever than the fake documents. He said it was inconclusive.
Yeah, I saw that.
He did say it merited more study, which I'm like, but the poll afterwards, if you caught the poll afterwards of that show, it was 70% of people said, or 70% of people that voted in that poll said that they don't believe Barack Obama.
No, and that's
the story.
And it's interesting, you guys. We're going to do this on Wednesday. We have a powerful week, thanks to Casey and thanks to Mr. C. But on Wednesday, they've done a television show in Canada. And there's my man on the line, Randy Foreman. It's true, and they did this Obama's forged birth certificate scandal. They call it America's Media Shamed, is the subtitle. And they talked to Phil Berg. They talked to Alina Leonard. I mean, they talk to all kinds of different people that that you and I have learned to respect. And this guy's name is Richard Serrett, and he had Mario Puzo on it, and he has these quote birthers. You know, and I have learned to wear that as a badge of honor.
Well, I've started call. I used it. If you in my piece, I now call. I think the real proper term for birth, people should be, instead of birther, it should be eligibility activists.
Well, truthers. I mean, I give you all kinds of different words for it, but you know, it's really interesting locally when I used to be cartooned and attacked in columns. It's all gone silent. Now that means that well, I don't know what it means inside of the minds of these people, but what I really like is this television show existed,
yeah.
And we're going to have a copy of it on Wednesday on our website. And so let me do this with about 2 minutes left in the piece. Ask you, will this break water? Will we see it someday? I mean, totally.
Oh, definitely. I could say. I mean, from this visit, I thought that this visit was a success for Zullo. It was a total success with what he was doing. This type of a move that I saw from what he did this last week. I mean, this investigation, in my opinion, is ramping up. Him and his aides, I mean, they're working hard. Their team, they're ramping up, and I mean, he's a very decent, I mean, just absolutely solid investigator, and these guys are doing themselves no favors by not talking about, and not coming clean. They're not doing themselves. This is not a guy you want to tangle with.
No, I agree.
Mike Zullo is not a guy, and I just it's only going to be harder for him. I mean, he talked about basically. I mean, Mike Zullo is the type of person that Bob Seger, when he wrote the song Shakedown,
mm-hmm.
This is what that song was about. Man. It was about someone like Mike Zullo. What's going on with this investigation is wilder than an episode of House of Cards.
Now, I'm told from inside, from some of our sources, that, and they say this, maybe they say it too much, hang on. But I'm willing to hang on because, and then when I say that to people, and then but no one else is doing it. We're simply, this radio show and the show I had before this, we're just simply a rubber tube system. We're like a pneumatic tube system for people that I have respect for. But I really get a sense, again, that this is going to heat back up. The Canadian TV show, Zullo, guys like yourself. Randy, I hold out hope.
I not only hold out hope, I mean, he expressed it. I'm not going to tell you he did tell me an estimate. I'm not going to tell your listeners over the air and everything, but he did tell me an estimate of what he thought, how he was going to do the press conference, that he'd do it in Phoenix after, coming up. But I mean, he's definitely working this case. I mean, he's been in 70 cities, traveling.
I know.
I mean, this guy is probably laboring. He's laboring quietly, but this is what an investigation like this works. How it works, and I mean. And I was honored that he called me. Yeah. I was honored that he called me and everything. So. All
right, pal. Listen, we'll probably talk to you at the end of the week and see what happens. But
we'll
see what goes on. You be safe.
Anyway, I want to thank you and your audience and Casey and your staff and everything else for having me on again.
You're the man.
And all right.
Thanks, brother, man. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter.
Randy Foreman, you guys. Thanks, you guys.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.